Boom. There we are. I dig your setup, by the way. I like it. It looks official. You've got stuff on the walls, stuff on the ceiling, guitars both sides.
Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, John. And yeah, I'm actually recording this here at our home studio where we basically did the pre-production for the record.
Ooh, okay. That's something to definitely talk about. So let's get ready to rock and roll here. Rock Metal Nation, what is up? Hello, and welcome to the Rock and Roll Podcast. I'm your host, John Harris. And today on the Rock and Roll Podcast, we have the Advent Equation. They've got a new album called Remnants of Oblivion. And it's going to be released on December 4th, which by the time this airs, Luis, that may or may be live. This will air probably about a month after we're recording here. Right now, I'm being joined by Luis, as I had just mentioned, and he's going to be sharing some information about this stellar release that I've had the opportunity to listen to, and what the band has been up to, what they are going to be up to. So, Luis, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. Thanks again, and hello, everyone, to your audience. It's really an honor to be here with you guys and tell you a little bit more, talk about our experience with this album, which we definitely are very proud of the product. And it has been an experience to put together this record. But at the end of the day, we're very, very pleased and satisfied on the outcome. And we are hoping that you guys enjoy it as well.
Yeah, and something you mentioned there, we'll dive right in, is you said it was an experience putting the record together. And at least as per Spotify, it looks like it's been a while since the last release.
Yes.
So take us through putting this record together.
Sure. Well, it all began, and I'll go back to pretty much. I'll answer your question first. It's been 8 years, and we cannot hide it, right? And even it's very funny because even when we as a band nonstop, we have been seeing us every weekend sometimes, and for a large period we even rehearsed more than 2 to 3 times per week. From a public standpoint or a social media perspective, we were inactive, right? It's been 8 years without activity, and there are some reasons behind that. Number one, it has been a great experience. It has been an experience per se because the band, number one, had some changes when it comes to the lineup. We lost one guitar player and the previous keyboard guy from the old album. And they had their own personal reasons, chasing their own careers as musicians, and we totally respected that. So for us was really an opportunity to explore, let's say, a more solid foundation when it comes to how we build the structure of our compositions, if you will, and going straight to the point. For this album, we were preparing something different to what we have done in the past. What I mean by that is, I think on the previous album in 2012, as you mentioned, we were more in line of the progressive, extreme side of metal when it comes to guttural voice, heavy riffs, high speed, dense, you know what I'm saying, heavy guitar tones. For this record, we had two missions, two goals in mind, right? The first one of them being we wanted this album to have riffs or guitar parts that make you want to pick up the guitar and say, hey man, that is a great riff and I want to learn it. I want to listen to that again. And the other was approach vocals from a more traditional way, in a sense that that they make you sing. I mean, we explored more catchy melodies, choruses that are well prepared to land on an official chorus, which is something that we didn't do on previous records. So it was an experience because we evolved as musicians, and in 8 years, a lot of things happened, right? I moved out from my previous home. In 8 years, because of my work, I traveled a lot, countries like the Philippines, Romania, I don't know, Colombia, being around the world and meeting people, and all of that, you know, at the end of the day, affect or influence the way that you write music, right? So that's what I mean by a whole experience. Very happy, just to close the question, very happy with current lineup. Worth to mention that Again, we've been with this lineup for at least 4 years now. Very stable friendship, very solid communication when it comes to writing music, and very hesitant to talk a bit more about that.
You're hesitant to talk more about that?
Yeah, and that's because it's another funny story. We just recently posted on Facebook the newest member, right? Carlos, our keyboard player, and people reacted like, "Hey guys, you were hiding this," and for the audience, he's a new member, right? But for us, he's been with us for 3-4 years already, right? So those are one of the things that we really like to talk, because Carlos and his way of playing a keyboard and his ability when it comes to also producing music really help us go to the direction where this record landed. I mean, we were already in the lands of progressive metal, but I guess his influence kind of helped us on the right track to fine tune and polish the songs that we already had in mind for this album.
Yeah, and there's a few things that you brought up there, Louis. You mentioned something like, being able to travel for work. So you were able to go to very, very different cultures: Philippines, Romania. My mom's side of the family is Romanian, so I imagine you probably fit in. I bet people thought you were Romanian. You kind of look Romanian.
That was a great experience. Yes.
And Colombia, you mentioned that had an influence on writing, and also a lineup change will also have an influence on writing. And so I'm curious if you wouldn't mind maybe taking us through, how did traveling change what you guys were writing, and with new members, what did they bring to the table that maybe wasn't there before?
Sure. I'll start with the traveling piece. For a long period of time, let's say 2016 all the way to this year, because of the pandemic, we are unable to travel right now. But for the most part, I was on a plane almost every 2 or 3 weeks. So from a writing and studio time perspective, we had to be creative. and one of the ways that we pretty much found ourselves working pretty well was using Apple Logic. And I don't intend any kind of commercial here, but using tools like Apple Logic, where you can basically write down a new piece of music, share it to the band using tools or resources like, I don't know, WeTransfer, Dropbox, etc., helped us a lot. Even when we were far from a distance perspective, we were very close when it comes to real-time updating the projects. So when the time came, we scheduled a specific amount of time. And we did the pre-production here at home. I have a home studio here. And we spent maybe almost a year. Had to put it on hold sometimes because of this traveling thing. But for almost a year, we spent every weekend, pretty much at least, writing, composing, arranging music, and almost an entire 6 months on the vocals only. So it was tough, and it was a learning for us, because we wanted the recording time to be as efficient as possible. So when the time came with these new members to be in the studio, the whole experience with the studio was so more efficient. And even when it was long, because of similar cases traveling the pandemic, the producer was very happy of what we were able to bring as pre-production. So long story short, we spent a lot of time in pre-production for this record, something we haven't done in the past, which I guess it was another huge learning from this album.
Okay, fantastic. And you mentioned your home studio there, which looks more elaborate than a traditional home studio, that's for sure. But you mentioned at the beginning that there was some pre-production being done. Is this the studio where the pre-production was done?
Yes, actually, to its entirety. From the creation of just changing some riffs on the guitar, just drum beats, all the way to translating that into MIDI information, to Logic, recording ourselves, vocals, instruments, like let's say doing a mock album, if you will. So when the time came for the full production, we were more than ready.
Okay, perfect. Now, you mentioned being more than ready, and I mean, absolutely incredible album. I gave it a listen to.
Thank you.
Something that really drove me home. The funny thing is, you're mentioning, the two things you guys are going for was to have guitar riffs that make guitar players like me want the Guitar Pro tabs, and then you've also got vocals where people want to sing along, and interestingly enough, something that I picked up for sure was, and maybe it's in the writing, maybe it's in the mix, but as soon as I heard, because we wanted to chat about patterns of spiraling reality today,
yeah.
The minute the song starts, my head is bobbing. I have absolutely no choice, Luis, but to just start getting into it. And I'm like, what is happening? What have they done to me? And then you guys are doing some really tricky stuff with the double kick pedal without losing that momentum. So a serious amount of work did go into this record. And I guess let's dive into patterns of spiraling reality. What is this track about? What is a spiraling reality? What are these patterns? Does it go into a concept for the album?
Yes, very, very good question. And let me answer that, John. And if you don't mind, let me emphasize on the whole concept of the record. And for us, the cover of the album plays a very important role of the musical experience with it, right? The concept is relatively simple. There's one statement from Carl Sagan that states, sorry for redundancy there, that we are made from stardust. We as humans, or life in our planet, comes from stars that billion years ago exploded, and the components or the main elements of those stars, when they landed in what we know our planet, that's where life came from, right? So from that perspective, we wrote the whole album. Patterns of a Spiraling Reality, it's let's say an overture. It contains a little bit of everything, what you will find throughout the record. It has the progressive side of things, it has the heavy, but it also has like the melodic and the more, let's say, sad piece where you see a star dying, but then because of that, life gets created. So that's what Patterns of a Spiraling Reality. It's a duality between creation, destruction, life, and death. That's why it's a spiral. Not sure if that makes sense.
yeah. Well, you're getting into entropy, which is the chaos that is the universe. However, is it actually chaos when you get to the other side of it? Because through the process of destruction, something is created, and through the process of creation, something is destroyed.
Excellent.
And then we could even get into, the symbol of yin yang, for example. You've got, say, one being creation, the other being destruction. They're constantly swirling in motion together, and one is always with the other. It's very, very, very cool stuff. Now, the other track you wanted to chat about today was Remnants of Oblivion, if I am correct?
Right. Yes.
Okay. And the album is called Remnants of Oblivion. So this is an important track. This is the title track, and it comes up pretty early on in the record, track number 3 out of 8 tracks. So take us through this track, and how did it become the title of the album?
Thank you. For us, let me try to answer your question in a simple manner. For us, these tracks represent a lot of things, and those things range from, number one, a solid union, if you will. I think this is a track where we as musicians, especially with Carlos, the newest member, where we landed into what we really wanted to sound like. This is us, pretty much. And the other part of it, it's very, very in line. Fans of our previous work will find them home with this new song, because it has a lot of components of what we have always been carrying we are fans of progressive rock, such as, I don't know, Genesis, Gentle Giant, Pink Floyd, but also we find extreme metal such as Nevermore, Gojira, I don't know, Strapping Young Lad, Devin Townsend, fascinating, right? So this track has a little bit of everything. It's a combination of influences, combination of union as members, but also I think also represents pretty well the chaos and creation, the beauty in darkness, as well as you can see on the album cover. So that's why it was titled. Then the album was titled after this song.
Okay, perfect. And something you mentioned there was that you guys finally have reached the point where you sound like how you want to sound. How does that feel?
I mean, if I can describe it, it feels like you really are accomplishing something. One of the greatest pleasures or joys that creating music gives you back is finding someone you can communicate through your music, right? And I think as musicians, when it clicked, it actually was when we were writing this song. It made our relationship stronger. Without a doubt, helped us continue the remaining of the creation process of the whole album in a more efficient manner. We already knew what we liked. We already knew what elements each of the band members were more proficient at, and that helped us a lot, pretty much. And from a sound perspective, again, we love prog rock, we love death metal, but we wanted to have a healthy balance between those two, in line with the two objectives: memorable riffs, heavy melodic riffs, but those that want to make you pick up the guitar, and also extremely catchy voice lines, right? Which is a new territory for us, and that's something that we're very happy on the product of it.
Mm-hmm. One of the bands that you'd mentioned was Nevermore, and that's something that they were accused of is they had great vocals. So
yeah, man, I'm telling you, albums like or Enemies of Reality, I'm not sure if you have heard that. Mm-hmm. It's addictive. I just recently got it in vinyl. I collect vinyl, by the way, and man, I couldn't stop spinning that vinyl.
I know, burn it out. Which brings me to my next question, because there's 8 songs, which would be perfect for vinyl, but however, it also depends on, they're pretty long songs too. Is there a vinyl release for Remnants of Oblivion?
Not yet, but definitely on the plans. We will begin by making it available for streaming platforms on December the 4th. But then when it comes to having a physical version of the record, at this point in time, we have Concreto Records, which is a Mexican record label. They have been supporting us. Our relationship is almost a decade now. And they were the ones who said, we want to release it physically. Let's begin with a CD version of it in hopefully January the latest. And then a vinyl version of it might be upcoming in February, March the latest. We just want to make sure we do this strategically. And internationally speaking, we are still in the process of getting like the best partnership, if you will. We've been getting offers, but not necessarily finding the right partnership yet. Our main goal is to make our music available for everyone. We don't pretend to get rich on this one. Our main objective pretty much is make it available. And if someone is interested in that and willing to build this partnership, we are definitely on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, make no mistake about it. I think jazz musicians make more than progressive metal musicians. So. Now, I guess this is a tricky question. I'm trying to figure out how to word it, Luis, but while committing the dangerous sin of verbal diarrhea, my question basically is, with the way that 2020 has gone with regard to coronavirus, you guys are still releasing the record this year. So I guess my question is, was it ever discussed to delay the release of the record, or you guys said, 2020 is going to be our year, let's just do it? And in a broader sense, how has this year gone for you guys?
Well, retaking the creativity part of getting things done, I think this year we decided was perfect for us. Not only was in our calendar, like you mentioned, our goal to have it being released in this year. With the world being upside down as it is right now, I think this record can help us. Well, pretty much aligns very well to the things we are seeing, right? We see a lot of stress out there. We see a lot of things to worry about. But at the end of the day, we are also finding balance through rediscovering things that we like, such as, I don't know, reading a book, staying at home with your family, etc. Right? So that duality we always find fascinating. It's part of the name of our band. It's part of the record where you will listen. So long story short, we don't think the year it's a challenge. We wanted to make it available. Plus, I think the internet and the way, and it might sound catchy, but the way things have evolved actually makes it simpler if you see it from a different way. Because let me talk about festivals and presenting the record. More often, we see bands, huge bands and number of groups presenting themselves in festivals, all of because of this, right? We are planning actually a couple of online shows for that matter. And I think more than being a challenge, again, it's an opportunity to reinvent yourself and be creative.
Cool. I mean, you mentioned something really powerful there that kind of leads into another question is, what are you guys doing now? But it sounds like you've got quite a bit of plans coming up with some online things that normally are not online.
Yeah. To summarize it, after you finished recording an album, actually it's where pretty much the hardest work begins, because now you have a limited amount of time to learn it and learn it to perfection. So just this week, we are formally starting the rehearsals for potential live shows. We have a couple on the way, and we want to make sure we deliver, not only from what you hear in the record, but what you hear and see when it comes to us in action. So very excited for that stage as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, you guys have a Facebook page. Is that where we have all of the updates with regard to everything that you mentioned, or is there some place else we should go?
Right. So either our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, which we're becoming very active there as well. All of them / the Advent Equation. You will find updates from us, from ourselves, or what we find in from a social media perspective. We'll be sharing those there. So yeah, those are the where you can find us.
Okay, perfect, sweet. Well, Luis, we've chatted about the album, Remnants of Oblivion, the track Remnants of Oblivion, Patterns of Spiraling Reality. We've chatted about the album, what you guys wanted to achieve out of the album, the lineup changes, even your travel to Philippines, Romania, Colombia. You came back with souvenirs, like a little impaling stick, I guess, from Romania. What else is there? Some affrittata, some chicken affrittata from the Philippines. I don't know, what, coffee from Colombia. You've done it all, so it's great. The only thing we haven't chatted about, I guess, is your guitar tone. But I mean, is there anything else that you wanted to chat about with regard to the record or what Advent Equation is up to? Did I miss anything?
No. Like you mentioned, when this goes live, probably you've already seen our first video, musical video on our channels. We are streaming live November 27th, the first music video for this record, which is actually Patterns of Spiraling Reality. We are preparing some surprises as well, lyric videos, a second music video, hopefully by January, February. So stay tuned to our social media platforms. We're again becoming very, very active there. And anything you want to comment, give us a question, or just say hi, we will be there.
Okay.
Happy to hear.
Beautiful. All right. Well, Luis, thank you so much for coming on to the Rock and Roll podcast today.
Thanks for inviting us, John. And again, it was a great pleasure being here.